Welcome to the Roundtable Consult. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Williams, and I'm joined as always by my wonderful co-host, attorney Sonia Madison. How you doing this morning?
This week has been a little bit better than last week, although it's still been a crazy week. We've
Okay.
had, I don't know if you know, in Atlanta, we had a shooting at one of the malls downtown. And then that same day, and the guy who was recorded talking about the shooting hijacked the bus
Oh
and went
yes, I
around.
did hear about that.
And I mean, and it's not funny because unfortunately there were at least I think maybe one or two people that died
Yeah.
during the course of all that. And I happened to be downtown the day that it all happened. But it's been a crazy week in Atlanta, despite, I guess me
Well,
personally, hasn't been too bad of a week.
well, it's
I mean,
always a crazy week in Atlanta with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So, well, not Atlanta, but at least Georgia.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
So
unfortunate. The guy that was hijacked the bus, he actually was a witness to the shooting as well, though, correct?
exactly.
Oh
Exactly.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That's
during his interview, he did mention that he had bipolar. And you could probably speak on this better than I can, but apparently people are saying he had a break because he hadn't been on his medications, which he volunteered in the interview, that he was there
it,
to get his prescription refilled.
that's it's unfortunately such a difficult disease for families to have to deal with because people start doing better when they're on their medication, and when they're on their medication they start saying, well, I don't need the medication, I'm doing good, and so they'll stop taking the medicines because they're adults and they have every right and authority to be able to do that, and then all of a sudden something crazy like this happens. Is unfortunate. I wish we could blame the Supreme Court decisions on not taking their bipolar medicine. So,
I
so
know,
what
but
do you
they
think
actually
this?
came out with some decent decisions this weekend.
Well, the bump stop one though is the one I'm thinking about. Speaking of shooting, the bump stops. They determined that bump stops do not convert a weapon into a machine gun, and as a result, they reversed the federal ruling banning bump
The
stops. What are your
executive, and it
thoughts?
was a Trump era ban. So,
Yeah.
for all those that are like, yes, Republicans win again, that was the Trump era rule that was banning the bump stops after the shooting in Las Vegas. So,
But that was from a federal court though, right? That was a federal judge that or was
well,
that an
so the
executive order?
Trump put in the, as you know, legislative. So Trump in his executive powers put in a ban on bump stops. And so,
Hmm.
yes, it was challenged in court, and that's how we get to the Supreme Court.
Hmm.
But as you know, I mean, there has to be a rule in place first. Otherwise, again, judges are just interpreting and making law.
Well, the
Um,
Supreme Court justices like overturning rules, so that's what they've been doing lately.
So, between that and then they also, it was based on standing though, but they also denied the abortion pill, and it wasn't even the abortion pill, but the Plan B, essentially the pill that
Hmm.
the FDA approved to, I guess, prevent a pregnancy, and they were claiming that should be considered an overreach. And so the Supreme Court thankfully said, hey, not only you don't have standing, so we're not going to look at it, but it doesn't mean it can't be rechallenged. So someone who could have standing could try to bring it up. But I hopefully that is a warning to the Republican Party. Hey, don't bring this here.
Well, I don't
Y'all need to
know.
figure this out among
Uh,
yourselves.
the, the warning is probably more, don't bring it here right now, as we're in the middle of an election, presidential election season, when a lot
uh,
of our House seats and Congress seats are up for grabs as well. So that
Which
might have been
Joe
strategic.
Biden is taking that opportunity to put in a lot of executive orders. I mean, he's addressed the student loan, and also has,
It's
enabled.
campaign season.
I know, and so he's saying, "Hey, I'm going to take an opportunity to make some changes around here," and I appreciate it.
Well, it's a good thing that he does. But I tell you, Trump actually now is now making comp some requests and concessions, trying to, at least amongst his Republican Party, trying to encourage them to go easier on their abortion stance. And you think it's going to work at all or no?
I really do think, and maybe this is me being naive, I really do think that they are secretly hoping that Donald Trump doesn't win. I I mean, it is something
No
where
way.
the most of the people that were in his administration are vocally saying, please do not vote for this guy.
Hmm.
But also, I mean, we see when with the immigration bill that again was a Republican led bill that he vocally said, please do not have this passed because it's going to be a win for Joe Biden. And Joe Biden has essentially put in an executive order to pretty much execute the bill, despite the fact that Congress didn't execute it. And so I don't know. I just think that secretly Republicans are hoping, and Paul Ryan kind of said it himself that he feels like if he were to win, it would dismantle the Republican Party. But if he at least were to lose, it will be a call to arms to the party to revamp how they are moving and the people that they're supporting.
The party has already been dismantled. I'm sorry.
Hey,
It's a
if
party.
Trump wins, then it will be a cult. No, that's
It's
for sure.
it is what it is, and they do what they do. They support what they support, and I think what's happening is true colors are now finally starting to show forth. And frankly, there are a lot of them who are saying we don't care as long as we've got power and we've got enough of the our hands on the levers of power, meaning the Supreme Court as well as a lot of the federal court judges. They could care less whether or not there's a public revolt until, of course, they lose enough seats where you can actually get something done in Congress, which doesn't always, which seldomly will happen. I mean, I don't, when was the last time Congress voted 60 members of Congress to vote for anything
Well,
anymore?
what's also
So
interesting, they want to, if at least I read somewhere, Mike Johnson said if Trump wins, we also want to reform the tax bill. And I'm like, didn't Trump just pass
he
a tax
just
bill?
did it.
And now you're already talking about reforming it? I mean,
Well, what they're trying to do, what they want to do is to actually decrease the corporate tax rate because Trump had it, I think, down to 15%. And I think Biden wound up taking it up to 28%. And so now Trump is actually saying, hey, somewhere between 15 and 21%, because he, of course, wants to recruit and woo the big corporations and all their money that they have as well. But he's not doing a good job of it this week because he had a meeting with them apparently, and he was just rambling off, and people walked out of there and said, we were supporting him before, but I don't know if we're going to be
well,
able to
I'm
support this
disappointed that they were
maniac.
supporting him before. But to your point, I've seen corporations reduce some of their prices. And we saw with Walgreens and some of the pharmacies, they're saying, hey, we're going to reduce the price of some of our groceries, which to me, again, for the American people, I know a lot of them think that the two are tied, but the government cannot control grocery prices no more than it control oil prices. But nonetheless, the fact that they're reducing it during this election year kind of may pinpoint to who they're more likely to support.
We'll see. We'll see what
We'll see.
happens. But in the meantime, there's a lot of executive orders being written trying to maintain we secure some votes, make sure we secure some votes, particularly black folks who are now drifting off and over into Trump land. And so he's trying to do what he can do.
Which, since we did talk about Trump being convicted on 34 counts, because we've got to make sure to
Mhm.
say that every episode. What did you think about the
Welcome to the Roundtable Console, and Trump was convicted on 34 counts.
what did you think about the Hunter Biden verdict?
The verdict, I think the verdict was appropriate. I think the charge, again, people complain about the prosecutorial discretion. I think that's why I was given is that they get to make the determination about whether or not they should bring the charges. And just as they make the claim on the Republican side saying, hey, if his name wasn't Donald Trump, these charges never would have been brought against him. The same thing can be said about Hunter Biden. If he wasn't Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, charges never would have been brought. I do find it pretty integrous and probably more integrous than I would be for Joe Biden to say that he's not going to commute the sentence. Now, I was with him on when he said I'm not going to pardon him. I said, well, in the back of my mind, I'm sitting there thinking like, well, he's going to commute the sentence. So what's the difference? But I think this past
Well,
week
there is
he
a
came.
difference, though. Don't mislead.
Well,
There is
I
a
know
difference.
there's a difference, but even still, I knew that, and of course the lawyer would have to tell me there's a difference. You want
Yes.
to tell our listening audience what the difference
I said, do I
is?
need to put legal disclaimers up
Well, go ahead.
there?
Well,
Well, one, again, the difference, one is pardon is to essentially wipe it off as a conviction, whereas commute is to keep the conviction. All you're doing is commuting the sentence.
yeah, or getting rid of the sentence in layman's term.
And we don't know.
Putting an end
We
to the
don't know what
sentence
the
with a
sentence would
period.
be. The sentence could
Yeah.
be house arrest, and then there would be nothing.
So here's where I say he's a better man than I am, because I'm not sure that I would have taken that off the table at this point. I would have waited to find out what the sentence was and then made a determination as to whether or not, because I think he can face something like what, 12 or 20 years in prison, or 14 or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
he could face a lot of time. Yeah, I
He can
want to say
face a lot of time.
14 to 20 years. But also interesting enough, because apparently CNN gets access to jurors somehow, but they've been talking to some of the jurors and they have expressed that they don't want to see Hunter Biden face any jail time.
But they don't get to make that
No,
determination
they
though,
don't get to
right?
make determination.
Yeah.
But but it seems like they just want to make sure it's known to who makes the determination. The people are saying no. Please do not give them jail time.
Yeah, so I don't know if the judge will. It seems like the judge will be able to see and say, "Hey, this was, the guy's dealing with an issue. He should have known better than to sign. There's no way you can tell me that he's Harvard trained law, right? You can tell me that he was signing that thing and didn't realize that he was an addict at that time, that he was falsifying that document. And so, if you falsify a document, your last name is Trump, you should be convicted. If you falsify a document and your name is Biden, you should be convicted. If you falsify a document and your last name is Williams, then you should be pardoned by the president of the United States." That's my philosophy. That's my Joe. If you are listening, just know that, hey, if I get into any trouble right here, I'm expecting you to have my back, and I'm gonna rally as many black votes for you as I possibly can.
Although he says, listen, if my son can't get the privilege,
I wouldn't go that route. My son would have to get that privilege. There's no way in this world that I would let my son go to jail. And I have the power to commute the sentence. You might get the conviction, especially if it's not going to hurt. The conviction is not going to hurt Hunter Biden. He's set for life anyway. But the prison sentence might hurt him. And so I'm like, okay, we're going to commute that. And
well, again, I go back to what we talked about last time. What is the point of prison or punishment? If we're talking about deterrence or retribution or contrition or something, I mean, he had, at least from what has been said with the witnesses, he has gone through a lot of rehab. He's not actively using, and he doesn't have the gun anymore. So, to some degree, I think those factors should weigh in. Whereas when we look at Trump continued to deny that he has an issue. I don't doubt that he continues to falsify documents to his own, preservation. And again, if you're voting for him, know that he is running to alleviate this debt. He has a massive amount of debt. And so any resources, which even if you tap into how this money is being used now, he still has lawyers complaining that they're not getting paid. And so, where is the money going?
Well,
so those are factors that I would say needs to be considered, and is considered oftentimes in the judicial sentencing.
Yeah. Well, no disrespect to any white people, but I'm tired of talking about white people. Let's talk about Black Music Month.
Well, you're going to be upset. We're going to talk about.
Well, we probably are going to talk about.
There's a reason why there's Black Music Month, right?
Thanks, Jimmy Carter. 1979, we had Black African American Music Month, and this month on the Roundtable Consult, we're excited to be able to bring to you artists from different genres, different styles, and just really talk about and celebrate Black music. Not just celebrate Black music, but Black life. And music has always been a key part of Black culture, Black life. Even in Africa, was a huge part of our cultural traditions, and those things we brought over into we brought with us when we were brought over to the United States, and the amazing contribution that African Americans have made to music. Did you realize that even when music was before Africans really came over into America, most of the music that they had played really didn't have regular rhythms to them? And so a lot of times we brought these African beats and rhythms to the music, and you can feel it. And you can actually tell the difference when you're standing in church sometimes and see how people are clapping, whether they're clapping on beat or not on beat. And I'm not one of those people because, frankly, we all don't have rhythm. But anyhow, the guest that we're bringing on today certainly has rhythm. She has soul. She is, in fact, a queen of R&B. She is one of the members of the triple platinum selling R&B group called SWV that Grammy nominated. She had tremendous success in the 1990s, and here they are again. People are still loving them and going out on their concerts, selling out their shows. I'm believing they're selling out their shows. I've enjoyed it every time I've seen them. This young woman who we have on the show today, her name is Taj George. She is a wife, a mother of two, I think is two, a wife of one, and devoted singer person. Wonderful. I'm waiting for her to come on. I guess.
She said, you have not introduced me properly yet, so I'm going to continue to wait.
You're going to keep going.
For the wife of one. I mean,
I know, right? I know. Do we need to ask Reese how many wives do we have over here?
Hey, you are the wife of. Listen, there are a lot of people out there, especially in entertainment, who have had multiple husbands and/or wives. Not at the same time, usually, but they act like it.
I'm a one-wife woman.
One-wife woman. And I'm going to finish my introduction.
Who appreciates and understands that only one wife is necessary, and he's got all he needs through time.
Exactly, the best one. You keep saying we sold 3 million records. That was lovely on the first 2 years of our career. We've magnified up to 30 million.
Yes. Oh, it's. I thought
she said, "Put some respect on her."
Yes, ma'am.
Name.
Okay. Excuse me, 30 million. Tenfold.
I know where you work.
Tenfold.
Speaking of black men not putting respect on these black women's names.
Can I finish my introduction? I just want to say this last part. And dear friend of mine, welcome, Taj George.
Oh, he just gonna continue to dish you, Taj.
Welcome to the show, Taj. Never mind the abuse that I get from Sonya.
No, I love it. Keep them in place, Sonya.
So listen, I want to start off by talking about this tweet that you posted. You said, "Who is exhausted and wants to watch a WNBA game without hearing about Caitlyn saving the world? Every player in the WNBA is jealous or racist or hates her and should be grateful. Enough, just play." So first of all, what inspired you to put that out there? Because I imagine there's some similarities to people wanting to only delve into musicians' personal lives versus talking about the music, but also the whole, women's narrative. So go ahead.
Yes, I'm an avid sports fan. First of all, I'm married to an athlete, a professional athlete. Eddie George, of course, my husband has played football literally longer than he could breathe on this planet. My sons played football. My youngest son played every sport. We had him in swimming, racquetball, tennis, basketball, football, baseball. He did everything. So I love sports. I watch football, basketball, tennis. I watch everything that comes on television. And believe it or not, with all these people claiming that the WNBA was just sucky, I actually watched them as well. I was around when they started. Lisa Leslie and Rhonda Mapple, a couple of those people were my good friends.
Yes.
So I'm just like, and I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of it over the last few years. I catch like a game here and there because it wasn't on national television then. You could only catch it if you were in those cities or if somebody gave you a link. It was disrespectful to those women. So now you have this beautiful young lady who can actually shoot a three-pointer consistently, is now the savior of the WNBA. I personally think that is very disrespectful to the pioneers of the game. They should have been having the same kind of promotion that these girls get now. And I have a theory, and I know it may rub a lot of people wrong, but the bottom line is when you go to these events, these sporting events, the majority of the people at these events are white people. And when the WNBA started, the complaints were they're hard, they're tough, they're rough. So those white people weren't trying to spend their money to go see a couple black, tough, rough girls. Now they have this beautiful little white girl who's smart from Iowa. They're willing to support the sport now. So she didn't save us. They just decided that they wanted to see her. And that doesn't mean they saved it, because those girls kept it alive for, what, 30 years now? Keep it real.
Well, and let's again be honest about, like you said, this isn't about, oh, there hasn't been talent, or this isn't about there has never been a person in the WNBA that is marketable. Because again, like you said, when we talk about the Lisa Leslie, when we talk about the Cheryl Swoops, when we talk about the Maya Morris, I mean, those are extremely talented people that you can market their talent. You chose, and then by you, we're talking about the media and corporations, you chose not to take that talent and market it. And so because you were looking for a face that you felt was more what you decided should be marketable.
And I feel like they're still not giving these young ladies attention. This girl hadn't played a game and she gets 30 television viewing sessions. 30. I'm sorry, was it 36? Because there's 40 games and there was only 4 of hers that wouldn't be aired. So I just think that the disrespect to these women is so vulgar to me. And I can't stand when you hear Stephen A. Smith, Charles Barkley, all these idiots, I'm gonna call them idiots, telling these women that they're jealous of this girl. It's not about jealousy. So you're telling them before she even steps on the court, she's better than you. So you tell me somebody's better
before she even steps on the court, she's the reason you get a charter flight. We had charter flights before she came into the league. All right.
You, Dr. Williams, you all right. This other doctor, I mean, he turns his little stethoscope this way. You don't do it that way. You should be grateful. How would you feel?
And then when we again are saying what it is, let's talk about the racial undertones. Let's talk about the misogynistic undertones. When we say what it is, then it's, oh, why you make it all about race? We didn't do that. I mean, again, you spend 40 minutes talking about a foul instead of spending at least 30 minutes of that talking about the execution, the stat, who actually performed well in the game. Right. But we're going to sit here and talk about a foul for 40 minutes.
I watched I watched a Fever game where what's the girl? What's the young lady that was the first draft pick from Boston? She scored like 18 points, won the game. Caitlin, I believe, shot a 3, and I think she got like 8 points. Why was she being interviewed? Why? That's just disrespectful. And I'm sick of her fans declaring racism, ungrateful, jealousy, this and that, because they're out there performing their jobs. Now, is it their fault? Is it the WNBA's fault that they're going to put everything they have into it because you telling them that they ain't shit? Oh, excuse me.
I mean, it happens. It gets heated. It gets heated. But this is, again, an example of women supporting women. Because here, you and I are talking about how much support that we had for the league before Caitlin Clark.
Way before.
And again, we appreciate what Caitlin Clark is bringing because she is bringing a whole new fan base. We're just asking this new fan base, again, come and enjoy the game. Now, if you're just coming to hate on the other players because you are just this cult for
they're
Caitlin
jealous
Clark,
and
then hey, we don't need that. Yes.
That drives me crazy. And it's dope. Like I've not seen anybody who could shoot, a female who can shoot the 3-pointer as consistently. But let's not forget about Inesco. She was on the All-Star game last year competing with Steph Curry.
Steph Curry, exactly.
Shoot the 3. So you just totally disregarded her accomplishments because this girl, that just drives me crazy. That drives me crazy. And I hate when people say you're jealous because it's not about jealousy. You're insulting these people as human beings and their talent because you decided that this one young lady is better than everybody.
again,
And she hasn't
what
done
is
anything but
racism?
shoot a 3-point.
What is racism? We oppressing a certain group. That's what you're doing. You're oppressing a certain group to
She
elevate
broke
this one
records in
person.
college. She broke records in college. She has not won a championship, but before, just because she broke a few records, she can now be considered better than anyone on the planet.
Right. Which again, accolades for breaking the records. And fine, if you want to spend 40 minutes talking about the record she broke, I can't even be mad. But we're not going to spend 40 minutes talking about a foul when other people during that game did perform extremely well, and we're not talking about them at all.
And let's not forget the fact that the record she broke is Kelsey Plum's, who was killing it in the WNBA.
Yes. And why didn't she get the yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
And if black men like the Charles Barkley and Steve would do exactly what Mark Williams doing, is just sitting there and listening.
I just want to do that to all of them.
We probably wouldn't even be having this conversation. But instead, they are promoting this narrative. That, again, is not true. There were charter flights before. There were people talented, like you said before. Let's just call this what it is.
Yeah, it's
which,
I get tired of arguing people on social media. I just stop. I don't even get on social media that much anymore, because you open up your page and the timeline is full of Caitlin Clark posts. Her getting, now mind you, she's getting thrown around because you in the big leagues now, little baby. You better get in that gym and put some weight on. Because every time you see her, she's getting up off the floor.
And again, if you're like a Tim Duncan, you probably overreact anyways off the foul. But that,
Iowa anymore, baby. You are not in Iowa. It's
and I appreciate Angel's response when Alyssa Thomas had, again, horrible foul, flagrant foul. She was ejected. But Angel said, hey, that was a welcome to the league. Hey, you got to toughen up. You need to get into the gym. You got to put some more weights on you. I mean, this is a competitive sport.
The thing that I want people to understand, the majority of these brand new fans had not known anything about Caitlin until they beat South Carolina 2 years ago. Because newsflash, I was loving South Carolina prior to even knowing anything about her. I was upset with Iowa because they beat South Carolina. That was the reason I even watched that game, not her. I watched to support Dawn Staley.
And I'm going to say Dawn has been a staple for years.
Oh my God. She was undefeated and won a championship, but you can only talk about this girl.
Right.
That's not jealousy. That is disrespect.
Right. And again, the who can only talk. And again, it's not the WNBA players. It is the media. It is the corporations that want to continue to talk about her. Whereas I think, again, the people in the league, some of the women that are commentators are trying to shift the language. Let's talk about the stats. Let's talk about the games. Let's not focus on this, which I imagine as a veteran, in the music industry, you may have experiences as well, as you've got newer artists that are maybe getting a little bit more of that social media buzz, maybe getting a little bit more of those sales. And even as Mark did your introduction, forgetting that, hey, you guys are similarly good and propelled. Right. But I'd imagine the narrative oftentimes is the same. Like, oh, the veteran musicians are jealous of the new people and they just want to knock them off because they don't feel like they're getting credit. But again, you can speak on this better than I can, but I imagine that's not the case for you guys either.
No, it's a little different in the music industry. New artists are coming and the industry changes all the time. Not to say that basketball doesn't, but there is not one artist that comes in and you're told you're nothing. You have your career has a lifespan. So eventually it's going to die down. It's going to fizzle out. But look, people like us, like SWV and Escape and all the people that are out there still touring, Keith Sweat, we still have an audience that's there that's going to support us. But we didn't have social media when we were just beginning in the industry. So it's a microwave success now for these young people, but it doesn't affect us the same way. It doesn't affect us the same way in the fact that when these new artists come out, then we're not being kicked to the side and told we're nothing. We're still selling out concerts. People still coming. So there's still a fan base there. I feel like in the WNBA, it is, for me, it's just a level of disrespect because these women they've pioneered the way for this young lady to come in there. If the WNBA was not there, where would she play? Europe. You're here because of them. So
but you guys help present a stage too. I mean, someone has to start it off. Someone has to start it
we
off.
didn't.
Yes.
We didn't. So I believe that there is a level of respect for the elders that came in, because if the Supremes weren't there, maybe girl groups wouldn't have been as popular. And as you go down, okay, for instance, the 70s is not like the 80s. The 80s is not like the 90s. So we're gonna evolve. Music evolves, but basketball, it's not that it doesn't evolve, but it's the same game. It's the same rules, same points, same everything. It's just every year a new group comes in, like the NBA. A new group comes in. But I think everyone's making the point that when Jordan came in, everything changed. Okay, when Burden and Magic
Bill Chamberlain came in, things changed, right? You know, Magic Johnson comes in, things change. Larry Bird comes in, things change.
Was the rest of the league discarded because of one person? And it's not like that in the music. I just feel like there's a difference between the two.
Wow.
I didn't know if I should let Mark come into the conversation. I also recall on the Bravo show that you and Escape did. I felt like there was this.
Can I say
who
something?
is better, Escape or SWV, and who's getting more sales? I feel like there was an attempt by the production to kind of pit you guys against each other.
Absolutely. It really was. And that was one thing that I refused to allow them to do. I was not going to act like no fool on camera. You're not going to get me out here cursing people out and swinging. I have a child who is watching everything I do. I'm a parent who has to set the example for my son. He's not going to see me act crazy. I'm not going to embarrass him when he goes out in the street and people are like, yo, your mom be off the chain. No. His mama is classy until you touch her. So the production was definitely trying to cause controversy, and they had it. The sisters gave it to them.
But again, you guys support each other as a group as you're on tour together now. And so that's why I just want to make sure it's clear. Listen, a lot of this hate, this beef is not people in the industry. It really is the marketing, the corporations, just the social media fans that are putting a narrative out there that they feel will help sell versus.
Isn't that the bottom line though? Isn't that, and I'm going to finally say something here. 30 minutes into the show, but isn't that the bottom line? It's all about marketing. In fact, there was a guest, I did want to mention something that one of our viewers made the comment. He said, we as men have to be careful not to mansplain WNBA to women who have followed it for years. And I agree with that. And so, which is one of the reasons why I sat silent, because I saw two passionate women.
I was nervous.
That's one of the reasons I said I'm not even going to interject.
And to be clear, I have nothing against Caitlin Clark. I think she's a great young lady. She's incredibly talented on the court. I can't shoot the 3-pointer the way she does. Hell, I don't even know how to play basketball physically. I have no athletic gene in my body, but I love watching it, and I love watching everyone. That's my situation. I love watching everyone. I get tired of seeing the same person 24 hours a day. No, give me a variety. I like all kinds of candy, not just lollipops.
But it's all about marketing, though. A lot of it really boils down to marketing, whether it's who you choose to endorse, what athlete you endorse, whether it's a male, female, white, black, whatever, all of those things, when they're considering the marketability of that person, how many people can actually, how many people can this person's face, this person's persona, this person's skill and talent, all of those things come into factor there. How many people can they bring to our product? How many people can they draw to the NBA, to the WNBA, to Queens of R&B tour? How many people can they bring to the table? Because it all boils down to the almighty dollar. And so, granted, there are plenty of people who are much more talented than the people who actually get the endorsements. We know that's going to happen, and it always has happened, and always will happen. The reason is because you got a couple of people who are diehard musicians, and diehard artists will listen to. And no disrespect to Kim Burrell, but Kim Burrell is like what they call a singer. You know, people who are in the industry and who can really appreciate some of the things that she does. They're wild and mesmerized by her.
Yeah.
But then you get outside of that, there's not a whole lot of people who may say,
They
you
prefer
know, she's okay.
museum.
Yeah, exactly. And so it boils down to marketability, not necessarily who's got the most talent. And be that fair or be that unfair, that's the way that a capitalist society works. So the challenge then becomes, should we then change ourselves and should we modify our behavior so that we would become more marketable? The answer for you on Bravo, as I'm hearing, was, I'm not doing that. Or heck no, basically.
No, I don't do that. But let me ask you a question then. So, as a man, why do you think the other young ladies in the WNBA who were extremely talented did not get the attention that they deserve?
Or are not marketable, as he says, because
Right,
I mean, he's
right.
trying to make it seem like talent itself should not be considered
Asia
your
Williams,
ability to
I
be
think, is
marketable.
beautiful.
There's got to be these
Talented.
other factors.
I agree. I'm not the one who make those determinations.
Oh,
and
whatever.
you know, and the other thing is that you all know what country we live in. Why would you ask me? You know the answer to the question. And you've already said it, Taj. You said now this the soft white skinned woman coming to the game who can shoot a 3-pointer. Yes, all of a sudden, yes, everybody needs to watch the WNBA.
But why didn't the Black community support them?
Or again, the Black men, because I feel like there's been a lot of Black women that have been, particularly even on Stephen A. show, when you had Monica McNaught on there, and I think there was another young lady on there, really trying to say, oh, listen, you're part of this problem here. We have spent all this time talking about a foul when you could have used your platform to talk about some of the other players in the league that performed well. So, I mean, I really think, again, the question is really more towards these Black men. Like, why is it that you are not calling the spade? Instead, you're perpetuating this narrative that, hey, no, she should have made the Olympics because, hey, that's where all the money's going to go. So then again, we're going to erase talent. we're going to, that becomes irrelevant just because, again, these misogynist, racist, aspects are more marketable.
But the Olympics will never happen if people didn't attend the Olympics. If people stop buying those tickets, if people stop,
the best. There's a reason why Olympic trials happen, so you can see who the best are.
Olympics is probably an exception. Olympics is definitely an exception.
It's a global event. No one in Croatia gives a damn about Caitlin.
Which is the reason why she's
those seats get sold 4 to 8 years
regardless.
Right.
Without even knowing who's going to be there.
Right.
But I'm not going to fall down to this trap. So we really love your music, Taj.
Thank you.
I did. I was looking at your bio, and you suffered through a lot of abuse and whatnot. And so I want to really kind of get into how you did you see music as a calling, or did you see it as something you wanted to pursue to get out of a certain situation? Like, how did you find music?
It was just a passion. My dad, he was a singer. He didn't sing professionally, but he used to always sing songs to me. He would make up little songs when I was being potty trained. Apparently I missed the mark a lot. So he made this little song. Tamara is a bad girl. She won't go to the pot to pee. Whenever she got a wee she wee all over me. That was my little song. Yeah, he used to sing the Dairy Queen theme to me. I just loved singing since I could remember hearing him sing. And I used to watch Fame. I wanted to be Debbie Allen. I wanted to be at Fiorella LaGuardia so bad. I did not get accepted to that school. It destroyed my heart, but I got over it. But it wasn't even just to get out of the hood. I just love performing and singing. That's just in my blood.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll be doing the interview.
I'm just here for the comment.
So then with that, did you know you wanted to be in a group, or did you think about solo?
No, the group thing came out of nowhere. I never pursued a solo career. I was always, mind you, this happened when I was 20. So I never wanted to do a solo career. I was always into choirs and doing the chorus in school, and just fun stuff like that. I had no intention to do a group. One of my girlfriends in high school, she wanted to try a group, and I think we probably sang 2 or 3 songs together, and that went away. But yeah, it was just fate that at the time when Coco and Lily needed another girl, they knew someone that I knew who called me and asked me to audition, and I did, and here it is 32 years later.
So then even in those 32 years, right? Because I know, at least from what I'm hearing, I watch Unsung a lot. I hear about the terrible contracts that people get into. I hear about, all the evils of the music industry. And now we've got P. Diddy and The Dream, and we've got lawsuits, and then it becomes more exposing of what's going on. I mean, at any point where you're like, you know what, this isn't following my faith. I don't feel good about this. Let me get out of this. Or was it still always, no, I have this calling to sing, and you will just have to figure out how to set up boundaries to remove the distractions?
Well, I can honestly say that anything and everything you've heard about the industry is 100% true. And I don't doubt the charges. I really don't, because I've seen a lot of stuff in 32 years. But I will say, um, some people, the majority of the people who are making these claims, were willing participants. But it's just easier now to say I was a victim. But you don't walk into anybody's house and sit there and be innocent when the party's off the chain. You don't do that. So there were times when there were offers. That could have been a tramp, but I decided not to. There's not, only people who can claim this are the people I gave it to, and it wasn't that many.
So you're
basically saying,
listen, no one is, are people telling you, hey, unless you do this, you can't do X? Or you feel like, hey, you on your own felt like you had to do this to get X?
I think it's more on your own. Now you will be presented with situations like that, but how do you handle them? I've had situations like that. Maybe that's probably why I'm just where I am, because I've said no. There's no way in hell I'm going to do something that's going to compromise my integrity. And I can say that at 53 years old, in this industry for 30 something years, no one has ever been able to make me compromise my integrity.
Hear that, Bravo.
That's one of the things that I really appreciate about the entire group, frankly, for that matter. I mean, because there are opportunities for a lot of mischief, especially within the industry, and that you all throughout your careers have maintained a level of integrity. And I know it's sometimes when you all had, particularly when you first came out, you had this, hey, we're in the streets kind of attire or presentation. And I don't know who determined those, or if that was your normal style, or if that was
us.
the way that okay. But even still, you guys were pretty much church girls, though, right?
Hell no. No. Oh, no.
Y'all weren't out there in the streets all like that, though. But
I was going to say, let's define church girls, because I mean, they're not like, know, this whole button up to the top. We're not going to sing about anything but the Lord. No, maybe not that.
Of course not. Not when you're singing downtown.
You were people of faith, and you had your boundaries as to what you were.
I mean, when you think about it, we were in our 20s, young 20s. We had fun. But again, I could put it down, my hand on a Bible. You did not make me compromise my integrity. And I tell my son that all the time. You can have fun, but use your head. You know what's wrong and you know what's right. And if you got to sneak and do something, you know you're doing something you ain't supposed to do.
So do we have enough people like you guys telling these young girls, listen, you do not have to do this? Like,
there are a ton of people, but a lot of people will do what they want to do. Some people just don't want to hear it. Some people's drive is just different, and they feel like, if I just do this one time, it'll do that, and it doesn't work out. So then maybe next time. No, you just got to really weigh your pros and cons. Is this what you really want? Are you really willing to give this up? I don't know if you guys heard of this movie. Oh God, I just watched on Netflix, but the young man, his true story with the stalker. I can't think of the name of the movie, But in that movie, he talks about his trauma. He was trying to be a young comedian, and this show that he really enjoyed watching, the producer came over to him, talked to him, and was like, I can help you, I can do this, I can do that. So he did. He showed him how to put his show together. He showed him how to bring more attention to what he was doing, and then he invited him to his house. And from there, he started giving him drugs. Take this, take that. And every time he would take these drugs, he would be assaulted in some way or abused in some way. But instead of saying, no, I'm done, he's thinking, if I go back, he's still going to help me. He helped me this little bit before, so he can help me. I just got to put up with this. Next thing you know, you're being freaking, literally, you're being raped. And now you're crying, I was a victim, but you were a willing participant. And that doesn't make it any better, but we have to take responsibility for our part in these assaults.
Now, do you also feel like with the men, because I mean, I do hear you, and I would hope that when you're even in your 18s or 20s, I would hope that someone has taught you, hey, listen, just because you're talented doesn't mean that you are supposed to succumb to certain things that are not good for you just to promote your talent. But also to the men, or as well as the people that are around the men, like if what is happened, let's assume what's happened with Puff Daddy is true. But again, the disclaimer, he has denied, whatever. So let's just, right, I want to make sure the disclaimer is out there, but let's assume that's true. I mean, I'm also looking at everyone that the bodyguard that's coming out saying, yeah, I saw him do that. We had another lawsuit, a production person coming out. Yeah, I had to. So at what point I'm looking at everyone, you see someone who is violently hurting someone else. And yes, we can say, well, that person didn't walk away, but you're also not saying anything either. And so to some degree, that then tells the victim, listen, this is what I have to do, because no one is stepping up to say, stop. I mean, I think about the USA gymnastics team, when they had the whole Larry Nassar. I don't doubt that probably some parents were telling their child, hey, you don't allow anyone to touch you here, to do this, do this, or this. But then they get in this situation where they're around a national team of medical doctors and of trainers and coaches and whatnot. I can imagine, the ability to say something when they're all being supported by this medical professional or whatnot, it's hard. So do we not try to change then the leaders or the people, the moguls in the industry, considering that, as a victim, it may be hard to speak up against an entire mogul?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and again, every situation is different because growing up, my mother passed away when I was 14. I lived in an abusive home. I moved out when I was 18. I went through an abusive relationship where the boyfriend that I was living with was hitting on me. So I was definitely trying to find a way. I was actually about to go into the military because I just wanted to get away. But I say all like to say, every situation is different. Every person's different. Even in the midst of all that, I refused to just give up my integrity. I did not want to do that. I wasn't willing to go to somebody's house and do unspeakable things just so I could sleep on their couch. That just wasn't my vibe. So I guess if you don't have that thinking, that mental strength or whatever it is to push you forward or around those situations, maybe you will get stuck. But I just feel like at the end, it's really your decision to stay or go. And if you think staying because you don't have anything else to do and this is what you want to do, that's your plight. That's your plight. But I believe that there are more people out there that says no than there are that say yes.
Well, and I just want to get more people saying, hey, I'm not going to allow you to do this in front of me.
And
now,
that ain't going to happen. That ain't going to happen. Because we even have a whole R. Kelly situation. He's wrong. He's a terrible person for the things he did. But your 15-year-old cannot get married without your permission. You're securing, like you said, all these people around them, and they said nothing. So yes, they're at fault as well. But like again, it's who's going to be brave enough to stand up. And the only person, I tell people all the time, I only have me to fight for me. So I had to fight for me. I did whatever I had to do within my integrity. So I mean, like I said, it's different for everyone, and I'm not victim shaming. Do what you got to do. But I don't know.
Just
just
no, you're saying, listen, if this is what you have to do, recognize the consequence, recognize the sacrifice that you're
Not
making.
not have to do, but choose to do. I mean, but you basically, there is, in many cases there's a choice, and I hear you, Tosh. There is kind of scared to talk with y'all because I don't know. I feel like I'm ready to
Hey, we
attack
don't know
you if
what
I
you're gonna
say.
say either. Like,
I'm sitting there parsing my words. I'm like, this is one conversation you don't want to get attacked in.
no, because again,
But
that's my point. I think we need
but
more men talking because you
I
guys
do
have a
think
voice
that
in them.
I do think that there's a couple things. Every situation is unique, just like Taj says. Now, just as many men that are willing to exploit women and or other men, if this stuff with Diddy is true or not, there's many men who are willing to use their power to sexually exploit other people in order to give them that leg up. There are just as many people who are willing to exploit themselves to get that leg up. And then once they get in a little bit too far and have gone a little bit further than they really thought that they would go or wanted to go, maybe they didn't go further. Maybe they just went that way and started regretting, I can't believe I allowed myself to do this. That there is some buyer's remorse. And so there's one of our viewers said, there are levels of complicity. And the truth of the matter is that there are probably levels of complicity. I look at some of the people who with Harvey Weinstein. By no means am I defending Harvey Weinstein, but if he has a reputation and you know of his reputation and you still go to him and ask him for a leg up or a foot in the door,
and then he
and
does what he usually does.
And he tells you, meet me in my hotel room, right? We'll talk about
exactly,
it.
there's a level of complicity there. And so don't come to court telling me, well, he told me that he wouldn't give me the promotion unless I did this. And as far as it goes to those people who are witnesses to it and who don't say anything, my answer is the same as the first one. It all comes down to the almighty dollar. And people are
Yep.
willing to stay silent about things that they shouldn't stay silent about. People are willing to do things that they shouldn't do and compromise on things that they shouldn't compromise on for money. And unfortunately, it's the love of it is the root of all evil. And so if you really want to have a whole conversation
Creative
about,
money.
yeah, the devil. That's why I don't have it right now. So
Whatever. Let's then talk about contracts, because we again hear about contracts in the music industry are equally raping or essentially taking advantage of people. And it seems to be a trend that now more artists that, like you guys, that were commercially successful, that were with labels, are now moving towards the independent route. So, has that been you guys coming together to talk about, hey, listen, these contracts are really them exploiting us, we need to start going on our own? Or is that just more of a, listen, it got to a point where I was done being complicit, and so now I'm getting out of the situation?
Well, our situation, we broke up as a group. So the contract literally was null and void after we had broken up because they decided to sign Coco to a solo deal that they literally released Lily and I. The contract was trash anyway, so we got lucky. And when we came back together, we decided to go the independent route, but it just wasn't as I guess we were spoiled at that point because we were with a label who did everything. I mean, they covered everything. And with the independent label, they didn't have the promotional budget. They didn't have the expense accounts. They didn't have any of those things that we were used to. And they didn't know how to promote our album the way it should have been in the 2000s. So we got lucky with that one, and the deal that we had with the independents wasn't as as controlling. So once we were done with that 2-album deal, we were free.
Okay, so you're saying both contracts, you
mean,
win some and lose some, just depending on which route you take.
Exactly. And now in the industry, it's all about that 360 deal. And that one, I mean, you may as well be independent.
Well, you hear about recoups, you hear about, because again, like you said, they have all this money, but then in their agreements, you got to pay that back. And then
And
is
you
why
always
you hear about the
have.
TLCs that say I'm bankrupt because you're
Yeah.
still paying back.
Yeah, you always have had to pay back, and you still have to pay back with 360s. But now those labels are saying we're not going to give you everything. You got to come with most of it and give us some of what you have, and then we'll help you.
Right. Now you're saying 360. Go ahead and explain
Deal. I'm
for
sorry.
our what the 360 is, because a lot of people don't understand that.
In modern times now, there's no longer just a regular 10 album contract with labels. Now you have these 360 deals, whereas the label is there and it's going to be your support system, but they want you to come in with everything. They're not just going to pay the bills for everything. You have to pay the bills, and they might help you with some allowance and help you promote it, but they're not going to take the full grunt of the responsibility like they used to. That's the grunt of the 360 deal.
And they may actually take a percentage of a
They
lot
do.
of the merch as well.
They take a percentage of everything.
Because in the past, what they would do a lot of times is that, they would recoup their monies from, of course, mostly from some of the merch that was sold or whatever. But we're not selling albums and CDs or anything like that anymore. And so
No.
the
They
record
said, we
labels,
gonna find a way.
they're gonna find some money somewhere. And so not a whole lot of money left in there for the artists afterwards now, after the record label gets in. And so I think that's one of the reasons.
Did I lose
a
you?
lot of people.
His mic went down. His mic.
Yeah,
Your mic.
there you go.
It's better now. It's better now, Mark.
My mic is better now?
Yeah, it's better now. Go ahead.
Oh, maybe it's God telling me you
I
shouldn't be
know,
talking
maybe
in
it's
this
like, you probably
conversation.
ain't talking about nothing.
All right, I'm finished. I'm finished. Carry on.
It's my understanding that for the most part, artists make their money on tours. Is that true? And okay.
Yeah.
And so then I'd even
do.
imagine then, even in that, you gotta kind of build your fan base anyways, to some degree. I guess, is that better? Is it better that they did switch to more of a 360? You need to come in than before.
Give and take. It just depends on what you're able to handle. Back in the days, we had video channels. There's radio stations. There were so many more ways to promote your music. We always tell these younger people, we had to hit the ground running. Y'all can hit the computer. So you sit there, your butt don't hurt. You're not hungry. You don't have to do any of those things. But there's also only one way to really promote. The majority of your promotion is going to be online with these social media fans. Social media is taking over everything. People need to get used to TikTok. If it stays, they're trying to sell TikTok and get rid of it. They don't need to get rid of TikTok because
don't listen to Donald Trump. He's trying to get rid of it one day and then loves it the next day. You never know.
Yeah, it depends on who's kissing his butt that day. But I forgot what I was saying. What was I saying?
Well, you were talking about how social media has changed the landscape of how people are marketing and stuff.
It has. Like
so it's no longer about the radio or the DJ, because usually you have to really get the DJ to play your song on the radio. You really have to get those music videos, which are, and I know they're still doing music videos, but
where do you play them?
Different. Yeah, so you're right. Again, social media, you got to play it, because I know you do see YouTube. I do see videos on YouTube that are still amassing $30 to $50 million hit. I mean, not dollars, million hits. And so I imagine there's some monetization.
But you only get like 0.003 cents per thousand or something. So those things don't matter much. Taj, in these last few minutes here, we do want you to tell us about your upcoming tour. Give us a little bit of information about that as well.
We are about to set, I'm sorry, that's Eddie clicking in again. We are about to set off on the 30-day tour with the Queens of R&B, which includes Escape and SWV co-headlining. We have 30 shows. We're rotating, having to close. We have 702 Maya in total going out with us, and on some of the days we'll have MC Light, and there's a couple other artists that'll be guest starring on tour with us. So it's gonna be fun. Make sure you get your tickets, Ticketmaster or LiveNation.com, and it's gonna be dope. You're gonna come to the show. We're not in Nashville this year.
I was gonna say, if you guys, I need to go figure when are y'all gonna be in Atlanta, so
we'll be in Atlanta in July, sometime in July. I don't have the tour schedule in front of me, but we'll be in Atlanta in July.
Okay. Yep, I will be there. I'm gonna let you know I'm here. I'll be that black person. Can I see you backstage?
Right. That girl, that fan girl. But yeah, well, I have to go to another city to see you this year then. For the tour. So
Birmingham.
Say that again.
He can come to Atlanta. He can come to Atlanta. Come on down. He
Birmingham.
got plenty of family in Atlanta. He can come to Atlanta.
Atlanta's good too. Well, we thank you so much for joining us on Roundtable Consult. I thank you for talking to Sonia because few people actually want to do
we
that.
just went in.
Hey, we're in a state of an emergency.
I enjoyed watching the show today. So thank you.
We'll invite you on next time.
All right.
At least I got to
Yes, thank you
and
so
got
much
that
for
wrong.
proving to the world that he does have celebrity friends. So,
well, thanks again for joining us.
All right, love you
Be
guys.
blessed. You too. Well, good.
Yes.
Wonderful. We get to celebrate. We're celebrating Black Music Month, but I tell you what, we the Black Music Month, we're much more than the music that we do, and so I'm glad that we get to share on a variety of different topics in the meantime.
Okay.
So
yes. And so for those that are tuned in, please make sure you are commenting on the page. Please send your love to not only Taj, but to all of SWV, as well as to all the musicians that have paved the way during this Black Music Month. We're going to continue it on with the next weekend, talking about even more issues that have been celebratory in Black music. So if there's a specific topic or a specific issue you want us to address, make sure you put that in the comments as we do this month. You can catch us every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Also, make sure you are liking and following us on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you check us out on YouTube, as well as a repeat of this episode on Star Radio. So until next Saturday, have a blessed week.